Hi, eighth graders. So today in class, we read the short story called People Call Me Crazy. And it is a good story. It's a little bit of an adventurous story. And so then what our goal is to work on today is looking at an important piece of dialogue that some characters had, and then trying to determine some character traits that we can learn from that dialogue. So dialogue from the text, if you remember, is a conversation between two characters. So it is an important conversation. They're talking. It's not just, hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? It's a continued conversation. So important dialogue will have detail in it. Okay. So if you don't know that dialogue means a conversation, that might be something you want to pause the video and write into your reader's notebook. Okay. So what I did was I chose an important scene from People Call Me Crazy, and then what we're going to do is we're going to determine what we can learn about these characters based on this scene. So here it is. It says, "Hold up," Richie said finally, his face watermelon red from exertion. He pulled out his water bottle and took a swig. "What I wouldn't give to be in air conditioning right now." I sat on a rock, wiping the sweat off my face with the tail of my t-shirt. "So what was up with you in the bridge?" Richie asked after a few moments. "Nothing," I shrugged. "Come on, man, distract me from the misery I'm feeling right now. I'm pretty sure my toe is nursing a blister the size of Texas. I just used to love the water, but then," I trailed off. "Then what?" he pressed. "It wasn't something I liked to talk about," I sighed. "A few summers ago, some of my older brother's friends dared me to swim underneath this floating diving raft. It was dark and I'd never done it before. I got tangled up in the anchor chain underwater and kind of freaked out. My older brother sort of had to jump in and save me." Richie nodded in a way that made me feel like maybe I wasn't such a loser. "After that, I don't know. I couldn't go in the water anymore. Honestly, I think my parents picked Camp Lakewood to help me get over it." So we have a conversation between Thatcher and Richie, and it's a deeper conversation because it talks to us about his fears. Now, Thatcher is the one who it was afraid of the water. So I feel like here um, it says, what character trait? Maybe we can think about fearful, hesitant, because it relates to water. He's kind of worried. And then you need to be able to explain it. So if we say he's hesitant, um, you can say that he is hesitant because after he had an experience, he became afraid of the water. The other thing you could even say is here, he's analyzing a lot, he's explaining his thought process. So maybe you could say he's analytical. He's saying, honestly, I think my parents picked Camp Lakewood to help me get over it. So you could even say, I think he's analytical because he's explaining why he thinks his parents said that. Richie is the other guy who's talking to him, is asking him. So maybe you could say, so what was up with you in the bridge? Maybe he's caring. He wants to know about what's going on with this kiddo. Maybe he's curious because he's asking questions. This right here, I'm pretty sure my toe is nursing a blister the size of Texas. You could tell he's kind of witty or funny. And even with that comment, he says, what I wouldn't give to be in air conditioning right now. Maybe not necessarily, he could be witty or funny, but you could also say, okay, looking at what I wouldn't give to be in air conditioning right now, clearly he's not an outdoorsy person, right? So just looking at all these things, it's just a short little piece of dialogue, but you can learn a lot about these two characters just by looking at these two pieces of dialogue. So what you're going to do is write what character trait down here. So maybe you chose over analytical for Thatcher. You would write over analytical, and then you would say he's over analytical because he's wondering and he's vocalizing his thoughts. And Richie, you could say he's humorous because he's using good words to explain how his toes hurt. Or you could say he's caring because he investigates and wants to know about his friend. Okay. So after you get done with that, and after you've read People Call Me Crazy, now it's time for you to try. So you have your own independent reading novel, and you don't have to be that. I mean, you should be decently into it right now, but you don't have to be crazy far into it to be able to find an important conversation. And so what you're going to do is you do not have to write down the whole conversation, but maybe if you write down page 42, Steve and Darla are talking. Steve says, maybe say what Steve says that lets you know what he is, and then what Darla says. And then it wouldn't say Thatcher or Richie, but it would say, what does this character trait reveal about blank? And that's where you're going to say, Steve. You would put Steve here. And then the other side, you would put Darla. I think that's who I said. And then you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to explain, first of all, what trait you notice, and then explain why you notice that about those characters. And you'll notice that dialogue, even conversations with human beings, not necessarily from a book, but that's why we look at this. Dialogue gives us information about people. Conversations give us information about people, and books do the exact same thing. Okay. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out and touch base with me. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.